Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to the final part of our European Youth Conference. But this time, it's a bit different. It's not only the final part of our European Youth Conference, but it's also the final part of the conference which is closing this cycle. As we opened today, and as my colleague Simona presented, we went through the whole cycle. We started from Germany, we went to Portugal, and now we are in Slovenia. It started with consultations, it started with discussions in Berlin, it went with consultations that went back to national level. Then we went to Portugal where we were discussing those recommendations, and then we were seeing on what can we do, what are the actions that we can take. And then it moved back to the national level, to the National Youth Councils, who already started implementing some of those actions. We discussed, we reported, we had dialogues, we developed recommendations, actions, and a lot of workshops, and now we are here. We're in one of the closing steps of the 18-month cycle of this youth dialogue. But still, it's not the end. I would like to remind you on all the commitments that were done before. Commitments by the presidency, commitments by all the partners, that how they're going to bring back the recommendations into implementation. How are they going to achieve it? And we just heard already some of the recommendations in the previous segments. The next 40 minutes are going to be reserved for us to close the conference and to hear a couple of speeches of people that have been involved in organizing this conference and had a role in it. And then afterwards, we are going to have a segment where we are going to be handing over this trio presidency to the next trio presidency, where we will hear on what are their plans and how are they going to approach the youth dialogue in the next 18 months. But without any further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Miha Župančić, who is the president of the National Youth Council of Slovenia, to take the floor and give us his final words from the conference. Miha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miloš. Spoštovani državni sekretar Damir Orehovec, cenjena komisarka gospa Marija Gabriel, spoštovani kolegi in predvsem dragi prijatelji. Pretekle dni, predvsem pa danes, žanjemo sadove dela preteklih skoraj 18 mesecev. Ker smo se vsebine in zaključkov danes že malo dotaknili, jih na tem mestu ne bom še enkrat omenil. To priložnost bi v prvi vrsti rad izkoristil za to, da se zahvalim vsem, ki ste pomagali, da smo pripeljali to konferenco, ta cikl do konca. Zahvalil bi se predvsem vam, delegatom, motiviranim mladim, brez katerih bi bilo skoraj vse brez smisla. Seveda pa v to skupino spadate tudi delegati, imenovani iz vladne strani. Hvala, da vam motivacija ni padla in da se še vedno trudite in nudite oporo in pomoč mladim. Takoj zatem pa je tu ekipa, ki je poskrbela, da smo lahko ideje mladih sploh slišali, jih zapisali, ter da jih bomo lahko zagovarjali še naprej. To so glavni facilitator Maja Drobne, Simona Mursec in Miloš Ristovski, ki so svojimi izkušnjami poskrbeli za pripravo programa. Potem so tu še sofacilitatorji, ki so poskrbeli za delo v skupinah. Pozabiti pa ne smemo niti na harvesterje, ki so zbrano sledili vsemu, kar se je dogajalo, izluščili bistvo in to skrbno zapisali. Nič od tega pa ne bi bilo mogoče brez moje ekipe na Mladinskem svetu Slovenije. Največja zahvala gre tu Sari Mariji Širnik, ki je opravila izjemno delo pri organizaciji od malih do velikih stvari. Seveda pa je celotna ekipa pokazala izjemne sposobnosti. Res sem vesel, da imam tako dobro ekipo, ki je sposobna takšnega sodelovanja, pa naj bo to na področju odnosov z javnostmi, organizacije, priprave vsebine ali pa zgolj pri podpori drugega. Potem pa je tu še Urad Republike Slovenije za mladino. Spoštovana gospa magistrica Dolores Kores, hvala za izkazano zaupanje pri organizaciji te konference. Mislim, da smo tako mladinska stran, kot tudi vaša, pokazali odličen primer dialoga, ki lahko služi kot izjemen zgled sodelovanja. Pred nami so sicer še številni izzivi, ampak glede na temelje, ki smo jih postavili, se veselim vseh nadaljnjih skupnih akcij. Cenjeni vsi prisotni, upam, da vam je bila konferenca zanimiva. Zame je bila zagotovo nepozabna. Ne vem, ali bom še kdaj imel možnost nagovoriti tolikšno število bodočih vodij, kot jih imam danes. Zato bom to priložnost izkoristil, da vam sporočim nekaj, kar sem se naučil skozi svoje delo v mladinskem sektorju. Mladi ste čudoviti, motivirani, energični, polni idej in želji izkušenj. Glede na demografske napovedi se morate zavedati, da postajate ekonomska dobrina. Za kratek čas sem se bal, da se bomo kot družba popolnoma prepustili individualizaciji. A sodobno reševanje izzivov zahteva veliko timskega dela in povezovanja. In delo z vami mi je pokazalo, da je ta generacija mladih tega vsekakor sposobna. V luči tega naj vam položim na srce, kar se mora zavedati vsak vodja. In to je, da je lahko vodja močan le toliko, kot je močna njegova ekipa. Ekipa pa je močna toliko, kot jo zna vodja povezati, voditi in motivirati. S pravo ekipo vsi problemi postanejo samo izzivi. Hvala še enkrat.
Thank you very much, Miha. The youth dialogue puzzle is not complete if we don't have also the ministry supporting the national youth councils and together implementing these conferences. I would like to invite Mr. Damir Orehovec, the State Secretary, Ministry of Education, Science and Sports from Slovenia, to take the floor.
Spoštovani mladi, spoštovani predstavniki držav, visoki gostje, spoštovana komisarka Marija Gabriel, spoštovana državna sekretarka Sarah L. Harry, dragi predsednik Mladinskega sveta Slovenije Miha Zupančič. V čast mi je, da vas lahko nagovorim ob zaključku Evropske mladinske konference v zadnjem 8. ciklu Evropskega mladinskega dialoga. Evropski mladinski cilji so za nas izjemno pomembni. Saj je v 11 ciljih zapisano, katera področja so pomembna za mlade in na kakšen način naj se jih lotimo. V času našega trija smo posebno pozornost namenili 9. cilju, prostor in participacija za vse. Veliko čast in veselje mi je, da sem bil lahko priča predstavljenim priporočilom, ki niso nastala v tem tednu, temveč so plod izjemnega, skoraj 2-letnega dela vseh vključenih v proces Evropskega mladinskega dialoga. Tako smo v 8. ciklu Evropskega mladinskega dialoga obravnavali pomembno temo participacija mladih in prostori za njihovo udejstvovanje. Zaradi nepredvidljivih in velikih sprememb v zadnjem obdobju je ta tema bistveno bolj pomembna na vseh ravneh delovanja. Ne le na lokalni, temveč tudi na regionalni, mednarodni, evropski, hkrati pa tudi na globalni ravni. Za razvoj participacije in prostorov za mlade so poleg priporočil, ki so plod dobrega sodelovanja med mladimi in predstavniki odločevalcev, pomembne tudi vse raziskave, ki so bile izvedene zaradi vašega aktivnega pristopa. S tem dokazujemo, da se tudi na področju participacije mladih oblikujejo politike, ki temeljijo na dokazih. Slišal sem, da je bila diskusija z odločevalci uspešna in prepričan sem, da se bodo odločevalci na vseh ravneh še bolj zavzemali za to, da mladim v svojih okoljih ponudijo varne, odprte in vključujoče državljanske prostore, ki so ključni za to, da lahko mladi v njih smiselno participirajo. Tekom konference ste odprli razpravo o prihodnosti Evrope. Zato, da Evropa prosperira, ste ključni mladi, saj boste izmed vseh danes živečih generacij najdlje živeli s posledicami odločitev, ki jih bomo sprejeli. Proces konference o prihodnosti Evrope je ključen. Participatorni mehanizem za pridobivanje mnenj vseh državljanov, še posebej pa je pomembno, da se vanj vključite prav vi, mladi. Zato smo še posebej veseli, da bo leto 2022 leto Evropske mladine. Upam, da ste preko dnevnega, predvsem pa preko večernega kulturnega programa spoznali kanček Slovenije, začutili dušo te prekrasne dežele. Veseli me, da smo skupaj z vami lahko v taki obliki Evropsko mladinsko konferenco uspešno pripeljali do konca. Na vseh nas je, da se vrnemo nazaj v svoje okolja in v svojih zmožnostih poskrbimo, da se vsa oblikovana priporočila ne le na tej konferenci, temveč znotraj celotnega 8. cikla tudi implementirajo. Želim vam vse dobro. Upam pa tudi, da vas naslednjič lahko pozdravim v naši lepi zeleni Sloveniji.
Now, I will pass the floor to Ms. Maria Gabriel, the European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, to take up the floor and address our participants and viewers.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are at the end of our youth conference. And I would like to thank the Slovenian presidency for organizing this event. And as you already said, we are wrapping up the 8th cycle of the European Youth Dialogue. So my thanks also go to the German and Portuguese presidencies. Well, President von der Leyen said in her State of the Union speech 2 weeks ago, dialogue always comes first, but dialogue is not an end in itself. It should lead to results. And this European Youth Dialogue demonstrates our focus on delivering concrete results. The entire process of the 8th cycle has been oriented towards achieving European Youth Goal 9, spaces participation for all. And the fact that this youth dialogue was geared towards answering this question showed that we wanted to follow up on the dialogue from 2018 and where the youth goals came to be. This conference, the third one in the 8th cycle of the European Youth Dialogue, has focused on evaluating results and seeing what is left to do. Together, you have come up with a set of recommendations which will formally reach decision makers via resolution of the Council of the European Union. And next month, we'll launch the European Youth Report, where you will be able to see the progress made in the implementation of our European Youth Strategy 2019-2027. And some of the key messages are: the 2021-27 European Youth Strategy has shown that it provides a strong and impactful roadmap. The youth sector could rely on the instruments developed over the last years to implement the strategy, as well as on key programs, including the Solidarity Corps. Our newly appointed youth coordinator was also a step in that direction. And despite the diversity of national situations, the strategy has allowed member states to identify common challenges and priorities. Having said that, we know that more efforts will be needed to reach out to more young people with different backgrounds and different profiles. The key role of civic education, media literacy, awareness of disinformation, and youth work to promote active participation and engagement of young people. Our efforts have been closely aligned. One of the most significant novelties in the Erasmus Plus program directly addresses the main concern of this youth conference. Over the last 4 days, we heard about the importance of not just creating spaces for young people, but helping young people create their own spaces, about the importance of opportunities for influencing decision-making and for equal access to these opportunities. And this is the primary goal of the new Erasmus Plus youth participation activities. We launched the first call already this year. A second application round is foreseen on 5th of October. And from helping people participate in civil and political life to providing the skills to be informed and to be more media savvy, these activities empower young people to interact with the political structure of our societies. For example, look at the conference on the future of Europe. Many young people have already contributed to this initiative, and I can only encourage you to continue to do so through the multilingual digital platform or through the decentralized events that are taking place across Europe. Allow me to give you another example. I want to share this with you. That's the new European Bauhaus. This initiative aims at reorganizing our space in a more sustainable and inclusive way. A co-design phase ran until the end of June, and based on this, we adopted a communication on 15th of September. The day after, I awarded the new European Bauhaus prizes. We had 20 winners in 10 categories over 2 strands, one which focused on our rising stars, that is young people below 30. Now, as we enter the delivery phase, we need to make sure that young people continue to be involved. On 12th of October, we'll launch something that is important for you. That's a new round of Discover EU. After a year-long forced break in 2020, 60,000 young Europeans aged 18-20 can get ready to explore Europe by rail in 2022. And finally, yesterday, I presented our new communication on the Horizon Europe missions, where we invited young people to help protect the planet through a planned climate initiative under the European Solidarity Corps. Dear friends, we want a Europe that matches the hopes and needs of our citizens. This will work only if our citizens' voice is heard, the voice of our young people, because you are not only our future, you are our present. And this aim was behind the decision to have a reinforced Erasmus Plus program. And it was behind the decision to make next year, 2022, the Year of European Youth. Finally, to put in place a new initiative, ALMA, to help young people who are not in employment, education, or training and get some working experience in another member state. So I think that our message to young people is simple. We want you to participate, and we are ready to invest in your right to shape your future, your right to participate in your own terms. Thank you again to the Slovenian presidency for organizing this youth conference and for their continued work to advance the youth agenda. And thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Thank you for the nice words. In the next segment, we're going to move on and we're going to continue with Mr. Miha Zupancic, who is going to close the current trio presidency and do the handover process to the next trio presidency. Miha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Milos, and thank you everyone for the excellent closing speeches. Since this is the last European conference, at least at this trio, I would like to invite my dear colleague, Marius, from the National Youth Council of Germany, on the floor. Come, Marius. Marius, now I give you the floor to tell us some of your thoughts about your experience with the youth dialogue, the trio presidency, and the whole process.
Thank you very much, Miha. And it's a great honor to stand here today because it's also an opportunity to give some thoughts to all of you. Today and at the last two youth conferences, at innumerous local consultation meetings and action events, we've seen a lot of great ideas, smart thinking, a lot of passion. And I'm proud to look back at those almost 2 years and see what we all together, especially in those times of crisis, have managed to achieve. But the cycle is not over yet. And the question whether or not anything we've done in those past 1.5 years actually matters at all is still to be answered. It's up to the European Commission and all member states in the Council now to take our recommendations seriously, to implement them and to keep us in the feedback loop. It's important for you to include our recommendations into the upcoming Slovenian Council resolution. And beyond the recommendations, we know that the youth dialogue still suffers from some quite serious structural issues. Insufficient funding for national working groups and international non-governmental youth organizations, when at the same time we ask them to always contribute more. No coherent communication strategy on the European level that goes beyond single presidencies and that would make the youth dialogue more visible and provide transparency and an institutional memory. It's up to you now, Member States and Commission. As a presidency or as a trio presidency, we've tried to make sure to make this an as meaningful cycle as possible. And thanks to Slovenia, all of you have the chance to include today's recommendations in the Council resolution and make them worth all the efforts of youth representatives and young people from all over Europe. You decide. Is the youth dialogue about tokenizing young people, telling us how important we are, how much we are Europe's future, but not taking us serious in the end? Or is the youth dialogue a place where we seriously debate ideas and make sure to not only tell young people that are being heard, but that their ideas are actually implemented? And that it's a place where we can execute our right to democratic participation. It's up to you. And you have the chance to fix some of those structural issues that are holding the youth dialogue back. You have the chance to further support national working groups and INGYOs to properly do the work we want them to do. We can have the best ideas and the smartest thinking, but we need to sufficiently support those who actually get the job done, and financial support at the moment is not sufficient. You have the chance to provide the youth dialogue with an institutional memory and take a first step to achieve consistent communication on the European level around the youth dialogue that involves all presidencies but goes beyond presidencies. We need to support presidencies better, and we need to make the youth dialogue more visible and transparent. And what I've learned in the past 2 years is that we had great collaboration with the European Commission, with national ministries, with a lot of people that are really willing to commit to make the youth dialogue a better youth dialogue. But you decided. With the upcoming Slovenian Council resolution, you will decide. Was it all worth it? And I tell you, be sure, we see you and we will hold you accountable. But today marks my 9th youth conference, so I also want to leave just a very personal, or some personal words also. I'm very thankful because it has been 4 years in the youth dialogue, 2 of them as a youth delegate myself, and 2 in a very privileged position where I, together with other people, had the chance to shape the youth dialogue. And there were a lot of people involved, and I learned that we have a lot of allies, especially in places where you'd not suspect them. So to all of our allies in the ministries, in the European Commission, and in other institutions, you are seen and you are appreciated. The youth dialogue gave me a lot. Personally, I grew. I learned more at one single youth conference than I learned in 1 year of school or at university. I met incredible and inspiring people, idealists that never stopped fighting for a more youth-friendly Europe, where all of us, no matter where we're from, are being heard. So thank you very much for all the friendship, for the mutual support, for caring for each other beyond the youth dialogue, for never giving up, and for having given me so many advices, hope and inspiration all along the way. And the last thing I'm going to say is, there is one group of people that inspire me the most. It's those young people from national youth councils that are being excluded by their national governments from the youth dialogue, that are not allowed to participate in the youth dialogue anymore, and that are not even here today with us. We are with you, and we will fight the fight with you. You're an inspiration. They can cut all the flowers, but they can't keep spring from coming. Good luck to the next presidency. Much success. Maybe not another corona crisis. And all I can say now is, Europe, my love.
Thank you, Marius, for your contribution. And this was a really nice speech and really important closing remarks. In the past, we had a lot of great debates, and I look forward for more. And this is also an important part of the European Youth Dialogue and conferences like that. From Slovenian side of presidency, I would just like to add that it was really interesting, sometimes stressful, but also a rewarding experience to lead this process. So, youth delegates, National Youth Conference, National Youth Councils, European Youth Forum, ministries, please continue. I would dare to say good work. We are doing it for the youth. Thanks again, Marius. Now, I would like to invite delegates of the next trio presidency. Delegates from France, the Czech Republic, and Sweden. Please join me on stage. Great. Firstly, I would like to say that I am glad that at least some of you could come to Slovenia and experience the conference firsthand. I want to assure you that if you have any question or if you need any help, you can count on us. Of course, the European Youth Forum is also always there to help. Secondly, I would like to give the floor now to the State Secretary of France, Ms. Sarah Eri.
Thank you so much. Hi, Mario, dear Minister, dear Commissioner, dear President of the Slovenian National Youth Council, dear representative of the National Youth Councils, of the current and future trios of the European Union presidency, dear participants. First of all, I would like to thank the Slovenian Ministry for this invitation to the closing session of the European Youth Conference of the Slovenian Presidency of the EU. I would also like to congratulate the Slovenian Ministry and the Slovenian National Youth Council for organizing this European Youth Conference. I'm sure that the recommendations drawn up by the youth delegations of the member states and addressed to the national and European political decision maker will enable to implement of the European Youth Objective number 9 of the European Youth Strategy relating to spaces and participation for all, and to assess the 8th cycle of the European Union Youth Dialogue of the current trio of the European Union Presidency. It's a great honor for me to take over for the opening of this new cycle of EU Youth Dialogue in a few months. The cycle, which will be the 9th, will begin with the French presidency in January 2022. We'll continue with the Czech presidency and will end with the Swedish presidency on June 2023. We wish with the Czech and Swedish counterparts and with the national youth councils, which I will welcome on this occasion, to work together on issues of sustainable development and inclusion in connection with 2 European youth goals. Youth goals 10 relating to a green and sustainable Europe, and Youth Goals 3 relating to inclusive societies. We know that these topics are dear to youth of today, and it seems essential to combine these 2 objectives since sustainable development was to be inclusive. I am also glad to unveil the slogan for this new cycle. I am all the more honored that it was proposed by the young people themselves. Thanks really to the contribution of young French, Czech and Swedish young people. The slogan that has been chosen will be engaging together for the sustainable and inclusive Europe. As part of this common priority during its European Union presidency, France wished to highlight the positive and driving role of young people in areas relating to sustainable development. This will be the central theme of the European Youth Conference of the French presidency of the EU, which will be organized between 24 and 26 January in the European Parliament in Strasbourg. In ad, France is going to launch a big call for projects aimed at the young Europeans to create innovative projects in the area of sustainable development and in particular the environment. The winners will be distinguished and awarded during the European Youth Conference. Finally, the conference will be the opportunity to make the link between the conference on the future of Europe, because like what you have done, we also wish to have our youth conference labeled as the conference on the future of Europe, so that the contributions of young people can feed into the more global reflection. Beyond the European Union Youth Dialogue, the European Youth Year, announced recently by the President von der Leyen, will mark 2022. We welcome this initiative from the Commission. This is in line with our wish to put youth at the heart of the presidency of European Union. Regarding to the other themes, that France wishes to address during its presidency. There is the important issue of the mobility of the young volunteers, including youth workers, and the promotion of skills acquired in this context. Indeed, France will have the honor of leading the discussions in the Council on the draft Council recommendation on the mobility of young volunteers in the EU. Finally, France wishes to continue discussions on the participation of young people in the European project in the continuity of the e-cycle. To conclude, I would like to give, on behalf of France, my full support to the Slovenia for its European Union presidency in the youth field and a good continuation for the last 3 months. So I can say just one thing, let's go together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Sarah. And now it's your turn, dear colleagues, Susanna, Tingvish, and Hannah, to tell us something about your plans for your trio presidency. Please.
Thank you, Miha. Madame European Commissioner, Mr. Youth Ministry of Slovenia, Madame la Ministre, la Secrétaire d'État à la Jeunesse, dear friends and colleagues from German, Portuguese, Slovenian, Czech, Swedish Youth Councils, dear young people. My name is Tanguy, and I'm the representative from the French Youth Council, the CNAGEP. First, I want to thank a lot the Slovenian presidency, the Carion Trio, and the steering group. You've been doing an amazing job, even with a really peculiar year, keeping the EU Youth Dialogue alive in the time of a global pandemic. Was not an easy job, and you did it. You were the first to experience remote steering group and online conferences. Today, for your final conference, we are glad that some of us are actually in Maribor in person. This cycle you organized gave us a profound conviction that dialogue, even in time of crisis, remains crucial and possible. In France, the campaign was remote but intense, and our youth delegates, Clémentine and Enzo, that I really want to thank for their commitment, are currently in Brussels to lead the conference with the French-speaking Belgium youth delegates to carry the political propositions. In order to build our circle on what has already been achieved and to push forward the youth goals, we will take into account the work of this cycle and on the past cycle proposals. In France, CNAGEP brings together more than 70 national youth and non-formal education movements, which gather nearly 100,000 local associations, mobilize more than 500,000 young people involved in projects and concern more than 10 million people. We are particularly involved in citizenship, youth policy, and youth participation issues at the European level. Since 2011, we have implemented the EU Youth Dialogue in France with a program of our own called Provox. It is crucial for us, as it is precisely at a crossroad between 3 of our main goals: non-formal education, youth participation, and youth policy. Therefore, our organization has a real commitment to that process, leaning on a collective working group of 25 organizations and institutions who develop pedagogical tools, advocacy campaigns, dialogue events, and national consultations. Together with the Ministry, we bring the EU Youth Dialogue process further by advocating for its application in France in the co-construction of regional youth policy. As a result of the cycle of youth participation in 2015, a territorial dialogue is now registered in French law since 2017 as an obligation for the regions. And, in that sense, we believe that Europe must not be a simply project of economical, commercial, and financial union. It should have strong ambition in the ecological and social fields. The construction of a true European democracy is at the heart of the challenges that we must take up with the help of all citizens, and especially young citizens. In the current context of a multiple crisis in Europe, it is necessary to open spaces of reflection and dialogue on the European project of society and on its democratic process. That's why CNAJEP deeply believes in the EU Youth Dialogue and its importance in involving young citizens in the development of public policies that directly affect them. It is about bringing Europe closer to the citizens by developing initiatives at a local level, allowing a real political construction going further than just consultations. Climate change and environment issues remain at the top of the list of priorities for young people in Europe. And therefore, we decided our trio that it should also be our priority. Thus, we collectively chose that the thematic framework on the 9th cycle of the EU Youth Dialogue will be Youth Goal 10, Sustainable Green Europe. However, to approach sustainable development only by looking at the environmental dimension without taking into account other dimensions of sustainability, notably economic and social fields, are more specifically focusing on inclusion and intergenerational justice, is to empty sustainable development of its political meaning and its social project. Therefore, the trio decided in this cycle of the EU Youth Dialogue to also partially focus on the Youth Goal 3, inclusive societies. That is why, after consulting young people in our 3 countries, we decided to choose this motto for our cycle, engaging together for a sustainable and inclusive Europe. We are already hard working with our colleagues from Czech Republic, Sweden, and with the Youth Forum to build a coherent cycle and to politically embody this 9th circle. Our only aim will be to carry your voice. Our only aim will be to carry your political recommendation further. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanguy. Dear young delegates, dear colleagues from the National Youth Councils, dear conference organizers, dear Youth Forum, and dear representative of the ministries, I'm so glad that I can follow my colleague as a representative of CRDM, which is the National Youth Council of the Czech Republic, which is the part of the following trio. Because Tanguy said everything, everything important we agreed on as a trio, I would just like to thank you for the opportunity to attend this conference in person and to see your work. And of course, and mainly, I would like to thank young people that they move EU Youth Dialogue forward through youth actions. And as I saw, they worked hard at this conference as well. Within the framework of the youth goals on which we agreed worked on as a trio, we also want to follow up your conclusions and your recommendations. We would like to move youth participation into a real intergenerational dialogue. I'm looking forward to our cooperation and for next steps. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, dear friends. And from what I heard, it seems like you're on the right track also. I believe that all young people from across the EU will support you in achieving your goals. There is a quote: "You can do anything, but not everything, at least not at once." So I believe that the EU Youth Dialogue is going to the right hands and that you will continue our good work. As I mentioned before, if you need anything, we are here to help. And to prove this, I have a little gift for you. I believe that everyone knows. Okay, thank you, colleague Jaka. I believe that everyone knows what this is. Yes, it's a megaphone. And there is a little text that we left for you. The purpose of this device is simply to make sure that you are heard. Because sometimes young people need some additional, maybe help is not the right expression, but the right tool, the right process to express their need. And from my experience, we can't always count on decision makers to be our support. That's why young people need to be innovative and proactive in finding the way. I really hope that, of course, you won't have to use the megaphone, but let it be a reminder to the decision makers that youth will always find a way to fight for better tomorrow. I wish you a good luck and all the best in your future trio presidency. Now, I want on the stage now back Milos, which will finally continue the end of the conference.
Thank you, Micha. I think that you see that Micha the pressure is there, so Micha forgot that we have one more person actually online that will take the floor, and the youth representative from Sweden is with us. So we would also pass the floor to the youth representative from Sweden, from the National Youth Council of Sweden, to take the floor and say a bit about their plans for their work in the next Euro presidency.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all of your work and for this conference. I would just like to add, of course, that we are very grateful and excited for this presidency, and we are looking forward to also taking on. I believe that many of these recommendations that you have been able to conclude in this cycle are also very much useful and helpful for us in the cycle to come. So we look forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And with this, I would like to officially close the EU Youth Conference Maribor. It was 4 days with a lot of activities, but also a lot of outcomes. But it doesn't stop here. We heard a lot of commitments, both from the national youth councils, the ministries, the European institutions. So I would like to thank the viewers that were following us live on the stream, and I would like to just inform the participants on the conference that the last evaluation session is from 2 p.m. Central European Time. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Philip and I come from the Institute Today is a New Day, and I'll be